Hi, my name is Tara Giroux, and I'm a writer based in Regina. My first book, Size of a Fist, was a teen novella, and I'm going to read to you now from a novel in progress called Wild People Quiet. It's about a woman who has denied her Métis heritage for decades until she rediscovers her passion for beading. Parts of the story are inspired by my own family's history. Wild People Quiet takes place in a fictional town just outside of Regina in 1948. It's Monday at lunch, and Florence is at the diner having lunch with her boss, Roland Hicks, the town's lawyer, and Shirley, the other secretary at the law office. Their plates have just come to their table when the bell on the door jangles, and three men Florence has never seen in town before amble to a booth at the front of the diner, one that lines the window. Their laminate tabletop glows red from the sun streaming through the painted sign on the glass, Nick's Diner in sloppy script. A quiet settles in the room, almost imperceptible. Conversations don't stop, but tones change. There are furtive glances while food is lifted to mouths. Some shift sideways in their chairs so sidelong looks are less noticeable. The three men each flip the coffee cups in front of them, right ending them in their saucers. As the waitress approaches, one of them leans back in his seat to give her room to pour, but she walks right past, the full coffee pot in her hand. Florence's appetite retreats. She stirs the beef barley soup she hasn't yet tasted. "Eat up, Florence," Roland says to her, after reading the room and seeing she's distracted. "There's a lot of work to do this afternoon." He treats the two women differently, always fatherly with Florence right from the beginning when she started in 1933 and was much younger. She's 51 now, and he's almost 80, but the dynamic has never changed. With Shirley, who's nearly a decade younger than Florence, Roland is very different. He tends to be stricter with her, more critical, but she's also his mistress. Florence knew right from day one, 8 years ago, they were going to have an affair. It never bothered her because they were discreet about it. Roland's wife was very ill and had been living at the retirement home for a few years before Shirley came to work at the office. Florence doesn't begrudge him a little happiness, and she admires people who keep things to themselves. It's how she lives her own life. She picks up one triangle of her sandwich and takes a small bite, tries to put the men at the other table out of her mind, but the tension in the diner blooms. The cook comes out of the kitchen and approaches the men's booth. Florence is grateful she's too far away to hear him speak. As the cook addresses the men, one of them looks around the room at every single person, even Florence. She turns back to her soup. Its surface ripples as Shirley uncrosses and crosses her legs under the table, bumping it. Moments later, the door opens again and the three men walk out of the diner. They sit at a picnic table on a scrappy patch of lawn in the empty lot beside the building. There's no umbrella or overhang to protect them from the blistering September sun. Summer is hanging on in a fierce way. Roland salts his fried ham and eggs and taps his bottom lip against his top, his habit when deep in thought. "Shame," Shirley says under her breath and tisks. Florence isn't sure if it's said in sympathy for the men or against them for trying to sit inside, but Florence is careful not to express anything at all. Eventually, they return to talking about the paperwork that's left to finish on the Swerps' wills and the remaining property transfers. Florence occasionally glances at the men out the window. They are clearly manual laborers, likely been hired on at a farm nearby from the looks of them. Steel-toed boots, jeans, and work shirts from Sears, dusty, sweat-stained collars like all the other farmers in town. The only differences are the shades of their skin and hair. Everything from a soft peanut shell to the deep brown of an old penny. When lunch is over, Roland pays the bill. With his retirement less than a month away, he's been buying them lunch daily during the week. Florence wonders what will happen to his relationship with Shirley when he doesn't have an excuse to see her so often. Roland holds the door open for the ladies as they exit. Florence leads the way to the sidewalk but bumps into one of the men from the picnic table. "Excuse me," he says, and steps to the side, carrying the greasy newspaper that held their burgers and fries and dumping it in the bin near the door. Florence smiles politely without looking up and continues along the sidewalk, heading towards Bay Avenue, the only street in town with maples so high and thick they form a dark tree tunnel. Roland and Shirley in step behind her. "Florence," the man calls out to her before she even makes it a few feet. He scurries towards her, skin shiny with sweat and wrinkled at the top of his cheeks from the smile stretched across his face. "Florence," he says again. "You're Donald's younger sister from Sikitawak up north." He holds out his hand. There's an accent in his voice, a mix of Cree and French that creates a staccato rhythm. "I'm sorry," she says, as plainly as she can. "You've confused me with someone else." She tucks her purse tight under her arm and folds her hands together in a knot. He lets his hand drop. "Donald Campeau wasn't your brother?" "My name is Banks." "But it's Florence, right? Did you marry?" She feels Roland and Shirley behind her and turns to them. "I'll catch up." "You sure, hun?" asks Shirley, but Roland tugs on Shirley's elbow and the two head towards Bay Avenue on their own. "It's been years. What, around 30? I still recognized you, though. It's Clancy." He waits for a reaction. "Clancy Delorme." Florence's fingers grow numb as she clenches them tighter. "The hair is different for sure, and those clothes, so fancy." He smiles, then seems to lose his words. His tone changes. "No one knew what happened to you." "I'm not Florence." It comes out harsh. I am Florence, but it's Banks. My last name is Banks." She straightens herself, relaxes her grip, and tucks a stray lock behind her ear. A hot breeze blows over them. He pulls a kerchief from the back pocket of his jeans and wipes his brow. "Sorry to have bothered you." He nods at her and walks back to the picnic table where his friends are waiting. Florence's heels clap on the sidewalk back to the office, her blouse wet under her arms and the band of her bra damp and constricting. She focuses on her plans for the rest of the day. 2 letters to type, a filing cabinet to empty into storage boxes, a turkey sandwich and potato salad for dinner, and Texas Star Theater on the radio. Thank you.